Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Gopi Jana Ballava Girivardhari Yasoda Nandana Radha Ranjana Yasoda Nandana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Mishra Bharabaham Sabha Radhikacharya Saraswati Madesi Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Namajahari Das Thakur Ki Jai Param Sagaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopa Jai Shama Kunda Radha Kodi Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadvip Dham Ki Jai Gang Jamuna Tulasi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Anandakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Go Premanandi all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Prachadane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatadesha Tadane Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasri Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 50, Verse 1. Now, Shri Sukha Uvacha Asti Praptischa Kamsasya Mahisha Bharatashabha Mrite Bhartari Dukarte Iyatusma Pitu Grahan. Shri Sukha Uvacha. Sukadev Goswami said, Asti Prapti Cha. Asti and Prapti. Kamsasya. Of Kamsa. Mahisho. The queens. Bharata Rishabha. O hero of the Bharatas. Mrite. Having been killed. Bhartari. Their husband. Dukkha. With unhappiness. Arte. Distressed. Iyatu. Sma. They went. Pito. Of their father. Grahan. To the house. Translation, Sukadeva Goswami said, when Kamsa was killed, O heroic descendant of Bharata, his two queens, Asti and Prapti, went to their father's house in great distress. The sorrowful queens told their father, King Jarasandha of Magadha, all about how they had become widows. Hearing this odious news, O king, Jarasandha was filled with sorrow and anger, and he began the greatest possible endeavor to rid the earth of the Yadavas. With a force of 23 Akshauhini divisions, he laid siege to the Yadu capital Mathura on all sides. Purport, the numbers involved in an Akshauhini division are given in the word meanings, that is, 21,870 soldiers or elephants, 21,870 charioteers, 65,610 cavalrymen, and 109,350 infantry soldiers. Okay, and Akshauhini was a standard fighting force in ancient times. Text 5 and 6. Although Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the original cause of this world, when he descended to the earth, he played the role of a human being. Thus, when he saw Jarasandha's assembled army surrounding his city like a great ocean overflowing its shores, and when he saw how this army was striking fear into his subjects, the Lord considered what his suitable response should be according to the time, place, and specific purpose of his current incarnation. Purport, the Acharyas point out that the Supreme Godhead does not have to worry about a mortal attack from Jarasandha and his soldiers. But as stated here, Sri Krishna was playing the part of a human being, and he played the part well. This play is called Leela, the Lord's enactment of spiritual pastimes for the pleasure of his devotees. Although ordinary persons may be dumbfounded by the Lord's pastimes, the devotees derive tremendous pleasure from his inimitable style of behavior. Thus, Sridhar Swami points out that Krishna thought as follows: how should I defeat Jarasandha? Should I kill the army, but not Jarasandha? Or should I kill Jarasandha and take the army for myself? Or perhaps I should just kill both of them? Lord Krishna's conclusion is described in the following verses. So this begins the story of Jarasandha attacking the city of Mathura, and consequently Krishna moving all the inhabitants to Dwarka. So after Kamsa was killed, of course there was great celebration because the Yadus gave up their fear, and they installed, or Krishna actually installed, Ugrasena as the king again. And so Krishna wasn't technically the king. He was just a follower, more or less. But still, there were other followers of Kamsa around. So that is explained here, how Kamsa had married the two daughters of Jarasandha. So after Kamsa was killed, then those two daughters returned to their father and began complaining how Krishna had killed Kamsa and the Yadus are back in power, etc. So then Jarasandha began to attack the city of Mathura to try to wipe out the Yadus and kill Krishna, etc. So, and of course, this story of Jarasandha continues for quite some time, how he attacked and attacked many times, but he could not succeed. So, in verse 5 and 6, there is a description of how Krishna responded to this. So, though he is the Supreme Lord, Bhagavan, and he is the cause of the world, etc., he plays the part of a human being, which is a little bit extraordinary. Now, normally, we find that different avatars come, and they're well known for being Supreme Lord. For instance, Varaha comes, and there's a story in the third canto of how out of the nostril of Brahma, a little thing came and started growing up, and it was a boar, and it grew bigger until it filled the whole sky. And then they understood, oh, this is Supreme Lord. So all the devotees began praising Varahadev, the Supreme Lord. So they understood directly he was Supreme Lord. And we see in other cases also, there is no hiding the fact that everybody is conscious of the form of the avatar as Supreme Lord because of the extraordinary features he has and his extraordinary activities. With Krishna, it's a little bit different. He is said to have a human form, which doesn't mean that he has a material body. So we can say it's a human-like form, and consequently human-like activities, so that when we see him act in this world and behave in certain ways, then we will doubt that he's actually Supreme Lord because he looks like everybody else. Yeah? So that's what human-like means, so when Krishna is in a human form, as compared to others. Of course, the form itself is human-like, as compared to Varaha or Nrsimha or Vamana or Hayagriva, which are quite different. But then we do have human forms like Ramchandra. He's quite human-like. Of course, we can say, well, Ramchandra is green, so. But then we say Krishna is blue, so they're both a little bit different. But nevertheless, the form is very human-like. But his behavior is not human-like. Still, everyone understands, oh, this is Supreme Lord, because of his display of great powers and killing demons, etc. So there's no mistaking Ramchandra for an ordinary mortal, except for the demons. They will do that. Ramchandra has a human-like form, but his behavior is not human-like. Krishna, on the other hand, has very human-like behavior, such that even people like Brahma, when they see him, they're very, very puzzled by his activities. Or even the devotees sometimes are very puzzled by his activities. Why is he doing like this? For instance, when Brahma saw the cowherd boys with Krishna taking their lunch in the forest after Krishna had killed Aghasura, in spite of the fact that all the devatas and the rishis and other persons were praising Krishna for liberating Aghasura, and that news that Brahma could hear the praises going on from the higher and higher planetary systems up to Tapaloka. Everyone was praising, and then Brahma became curious how Krishna's liberated someone. So he came to Vrindavan to look. And then he came there and he was surprised. Why? Because he was just a cowherd boy, not an adult, even a boy, and he was a cowherd, and he was acting like a regular cowherd boy, herding the cows like the other boys, and not the cows, but the calves. Okay, and he was quite small, actually, 5 years old only. And he acted like a 5-year-old boy, playing with his friends. And at the time when Brahma came, they were eating their meals. So because they're friends, they were exchanging their food, etc., very casually. And Krishna just looked like another cowherd boy. So this was very astonishing to Lord Brahma. And thus, he tried to test him by taking away all of the calves and hiding them in the cave along with the cowherd boys, etc. So that was because he was bewildered. He thought, oh, how can this be God? He's acting like a little boy, completely absorbed in eating his curd rice and sweets and taking the other boys' food, half-eaten food, and eating that also, and then, doing very things which you shouldn't do in normal society, very casually. So, in this way, he acted like a small child, and a normal child. And later on, again, even after 1 year, and Brahma saw all of these calves and cowherd boys turn into forms of Vishnu. And then that Vishnu, all the Vishnu forms suddenly disappeared and only Krishna was standing there. And what was the Krishna who was standing there? He was that little boy. And in one hand he had some curd rice, and he had his flute, and he was standing there like a little cowherd boy again. But at least now Brahma understood that this little cowherd boy is the source of all the Vishnu forms who create all the universes. So he had some realization, but it was very astonishing for him. So, for many people, the form of Krishna is a little puzzling, even for the devatas or the sages, etc., because Krishna acts like a normal human being, and he appears like a normal human being, and he grows like a normal human being, etc. So, a very, very different form of Supreme Lord. So when Krishna is called human-like, this distinguishes from all the other forms of the Lord. He's quite different. So that has, you could say, minus points, because some people get fooled and they don't understand he's Supreme Lord, like Brahma even. But there's a plus point also. So the plus point is that because of his human-like form and behavior, the people of Vrindavan particularly never see him as God. And this produces intensity in their affection for him, more than if they were to think of him as Supreme Lord. And what the consequence of that is that they get more intense bliss, more joy. So, in other words, the human-like form of Krishna is distinguished from the other forms because it also gives rise to the greatest ananda for the devotees. So, when Krishna went to Mathura and then to Dwarka, and then he lived with the Yadus, of course, they understood that Krishna is Supreme Lord. So there is some restriction in the intimacy they can have because they see him as Supreme Lord. For instance, Vasudeva and Devaki have a relationship as father and mother of Krishna. So they have Vatsalya Rasa. They think of Krishna as their child, and they learn to care for him as their child, just like Nanda and Yasoda. But the difference is that they see Krishna also as Supreme Lord. So simultaneously, they treat him as their child, and they also see him as Supreme Lord. So what this does, it restricts the Vatsalya to a large degree. So it is not as intense as that of Yasoda and Nanda in Vrindavan. They don't see him as Supreme Lord. So therefore the Vatsalya is very, very strong. So when the Yadus see Krishna as Supreme Lord, this restricts their affection to some degree. Of course, we can say, well, then Krishna in Mathura and Dwarka is just like Vishnu. But there's also a difference. One, of course, Krishna is always Krishna, in a different form. Even if he's not wearing his cowherd dress, he still is remarkable in his sweetness of his beauty, even if he's not wearing cowherd dress. And because of that, the sweetness of Krishna, all these different rasas are allowed to manifest. In other words, we have Vatsalya rasa, we have Madhurya rasa, we have Sakya rasa, we have Dasya rasa and Shanta rasa, all existing in Dwarka and Mathura. And we don't find these in Vaikuntha. No Vatsalya rasa in Vaikuntha, no Sakya rasa in Vaikuntha. And Madhurya rasa is limited to Lakshmi and a few other expansions. Whereas Krishna had 16,108 queens in Dwarka, etc. So the rasas are allowed to expand with Krishna even in Dwarka and Mathura. But then again, this is a little different from the rasas that are manifested in Vrindavan. Same rasas are manifested in Vrindavan, but without the seeing Krishna as Supreme Lord. So more intense in Vrindavan. So for that reason, in Nectar Devotion, when Rupa Goswami is describing Krishna, the form of Krishna, then he says, well, Krishna manifests in three ways: Purna, Purnatara, and Purnatama. Purna means, of course, perfect. Purnatara means more perfect. And Purnatama means most perfect. So, of course, when we say Purna, then that means that Krishna is manifesting more beauty than the other forms of the Lord, including Vishnu and Rama, etc. So he's Purna, Purna. Of course, it is said that Ramchandra and Narasimhadev are called Purna Avatar. But then of those, Krishna is supreme. So he's the ultimate Purna. Yeah? So in Dwarka, he is Purna. Same form in Mathura, because he doesn't age. Same age, Kaishore age. In Mathura, he's Purnatara. More perfect. Same form. He's also the same Yadu and with the same clothing and everything, but a little more perfect. And then Purnatama in Vrindavan. Same form, Kaishore form again, same age, but wearing cowherd dress. But the difference of the three is in the how much they're aware of Krishna as Supreme Lord or not aware. So they're completely not aware of Krishna as Supreme Lord in Vrindavan. And though it's the same form, the relationships that are established through that form are much more intense. So that's the Purnatama form. In Dwarka, obviously, Krishna shows great grandeur. He marries 16,108 queens. He lives in these huge palaces, etc. So everybody's obviously giving him the greatest respect. So the Aishvarya aspect of Krishna becomes more prominent there, and consequently the sweet aspect gets slightly diminished. But still sweeter than other forms of the Lord. So it is Purna. Mathura is similar to Dwarka because Krishna also is seen as Supreme Lord, but he hasn't manifested all of his powers so much. He hasn't married 16,000 queens, etc. He acts as a brahmachari and goes off to the Sandipani Muni's ashram for some time with Balaram. So he's still somewhat childlike there also, getting his education, etc. So the grandeur of Krishna is not so much there. So therefore, the restriction of the sweetness is not so much there. So there's Purnatara there. So in this way, in all cases, still, Krishna is very special, and that's why he is designated in these three forms, as to distinguish him from other forms of the Supreme Lord. And in all of these, there is some human-like aspect, but it is most prominent in Vrindavan, and therefore that is the Purnatama aspect of Krishna. So, though some people may criticize and say, well, Krishna is human form, whatever, actually it is a great praise, because through that human form one can establish the most intimate affection and the highest relationships, and consequently experience the greatest sweetness and bliss in relation to the Supreme Lord. Therefore, human form of Krishna should not be taken as a criticism at all. Actually, it's through that human form that Krishna displays his aspects as the supreme form of Bhagavan, Swayam Bhagavan, with the 64 qualities. We see that there's 4 qualities are there of Krishna, 4 special qualities. Yeah, one is the Madhurya Rupa, sweet form. So though the form of Krishna is the same form, Kaishar form in Dwarka, Mathura, and Vrindavan, it's Purnatama in Vrindavan. Why? Because his grandeur is completely hidden, even though it's the same form, and he has the cowherd boy dress, etc. And no one sees him as Supreme Lord. So the sweet form, the Madhurya Rupa, is completely manifested there in Vrindavan. Another is the sweet, he is surrounded by all these sweet devotees. So we have the sweet relationships in Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, and Madhurya manifested without seeing Krishna as Supreme Lord in Vrindavan. And we don't see that in Mathura and Dwarka and other places. Even though they're all there, those relationships are there, and we have many devotees in Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, Madhurya, still Aishvarya is there. So it is manifested, the second quality is manifested the best in Vrindavan. And Krishna has the flute in Vrindavan. So this is very typical of his Vrindavan pastimes, where Krishna plays the flute. And consequently, usually when we have pictures of Krishna, he has a flute. So this is a unique feature of Krishna and Vrindavan. And it is part of the sweetness. Through the sweetness of the flute, one experiences a sweet relationship with Krishna. Whoever hears the flute. So Nanda and Yasoda hear the flute, then they get sweet Vatsalya rasa. The gopis hear the flute, they get sweet Madhurya rasa, etc. The cowherd boys hear the flute, they get sweet Sakya rasa. So it gives a sweetness to the relationship simply by the sound of that flute. So in this way, the flute also is a very special aspect of Krishna. So in Vrindavan, these different aspects of Krishna manifest in the sweetest possible way, and not in other places. So in other words, Swayam Bhagavan is most wonderfully manifested in Vrindavan. So nevertheless, here there's a description of Krishna in Mathura as having a human form also. So how is he human here? Though the verses describe how he is Supreme Lord and he's the cause of everything and he descends into the material world, but he acts like a human being. So what is it that makes him act like a human being? And one is in this particular incident, how he deals with Jarasandha. We find that Jarasandha actually attacked 18 times or whatever like this, and he came back again and came back again and came back again, and still the Lord didn't kill him. Normally we see the avatars of the Lord, they come and they kill the demon, finish, one time, finished. They don't wait, they don't stop and then let him go away, let him come back like this. But 18 times he went through this whole process of getting attacked by Jarasandha, which is a great inconvenience for the people of Mathura, obviously, because they have to lock up their city and fight him off 18 times. So Krishna also could have killed him immediately. And actually, they had the opportunity to do that, but then Krishna said, no, we won't kill him now. So Krishna's pastimes are such that they're different from the pastimes of other avatars, in spite of the fact that it involves killing demons, etc. Therefore, he looks quite different. He doesn't display his powers immediately. He has other plans. And then here it describes how he began thinking, how are we going to defeat this army? What is the plan? And then they discuss among themselves with Balaram, etc., on what to do. Whereas, of course, the Lord, because he's all knowledgeable, he could immediately decide what to do and just go out and kill him or whatever. So he consults with his army generals and the Yadus, and he consults with Balaram on best strategy of attack. So in other words, much more human in his activities than other forms of the Lord. So his behavior is quite human-like in many cases. At the same time, there are aspects which make him completely non-human. For instance, he marries the 16,108 queens, which is quite extraordinary. And then he expands himself, and he's in each palace individually, which no one else can do. So there's a combination of human-like and then also a display of his powers as well in Mathura and Dwarka. Why act in this way? As I said, because of the intimacy that is established by human-like pastimes. So even in Mathura and Dwarka, the human-like nature of Krishna is there, in spite of the fact they see him as Supreme Lord. Still, his human-like aspect is there in how he deals with the different devotees. And there's a sweetness even in these relationships as compared with the other forms of the Lord. And all of this is, again, arrangement of the Supreme Lord in response to the individual nature of the devotees. The Yadus see Krishna in one way, and they appreciate him in this particular way. So the Lord acts in this way, and he serves his devotees in this way by taking this particular form, and they are very satisfied with this. At the same time, he's different with the people of Vrindavan because they have different expectation of Krishna. And then Krishna responds by acting in a different way with them. So Krishna manifests these different forms, Purna, Purnatara, and Purnatama, in response to the individuals, the different jivas, who get bliss from different relationships with the Lord. And the same goes for other forms of the Lord. Why we have to have so many forms like Vishnu and Hayagriva and Varaha and Nrsimha and Rama, etc. Because devotees like those forms. They appreciate those forms. So therefore, Lord manifests all those forms to serve his devotees and give them satisfaction. And similarly, why do we have all rasas? Why do we have 5 rasas instead of 1 rasa? Because devotees appreciate the Lord in different ways. Some prefer Shanta rasa, neutral. Some want to serve the Lord. They have dasya. Some want to be friendly with the Lord. They have sakya. Some want to take care of the Lord. They have vatsalya. And then we have those in Madhurya rasa. So according to the individuals and their desires, the Lord responds. And we have the different rasas. And in this way, the Lord shows his complete nature. He's able to satisfy everybody completely. If he did not do this, then so many different jivas would be dissatisfied. So we see that some people, they prefer to worship Ramchandra, they prefer to worship Nrsimhadeva, they prefer to worship Vishnu. For instance, when Lord Chaitanya went to Sri Rangam, and he stayed 4 months with the Venkat Bhatta and his family, and they are worshipping Vishnu form. So they would have discussions about who's superior, and Krishna would, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would say, oh yes, Krishna is supreme, he's the most sweet. But they wouldn't change their attitude. They kept worshipping Vishnu like this, in spite of all the arguments that he would give, whatever. So he didn't press the issue. And they remained worshipping Vishnu, and still to this day their descendants are worshipping Vishnu or whatever. So they prefer that, and they're satisfied with that. Whereas other persons, they prefer to worship Krishna. So according to the preference of the jiva, then the Lord manifests these different forms and responds, and they are completely satisfied, and the Lord is also satisfied. And if the Lord didn't have all these forms, then what would happen if only Krishna existed? Then they would say, well, we don't want that form. We want another form. We want to worship in awe and reverence. We don't want this form of not seeing him as God. So then they would get disappointed. The relationship wouldn't be there. So there are different forms manifested according to the individual's desires, and thus they attain those forms. So mercifully the Lord descends in the material world in various forms as avatars, and then these are described in the scriptures, so the devotees can become attracted to any of these forms and develop worship for them according to their preference, or with Krishna, different rasas are there. They can choose different rasas, worship in that way, and then they can attain that. And Krishna responds to them. So all the multiple forms of the Lord and the multiple forms of Krishna and the multiple rasas of Krishna are all there to satisfy the devotees. On the other hand, what does the Lord get out of it? He also gets bliss. He gets bliss by manifesting all these different forms of love. In other words, the variety creates more bliss. So he has all these different relationships, and they have their particular type of satisfaction for the Lord also. Now, of course, the Lord's nature is ananda, bliss, and his main shakti is Hladini Shakti. So, from all of this, ultimately, the Lord experiences the highest bliss, and the devotees experience the highest bliss. So all this arrangement of the Lord here in his human-like pastimes is for his pleasure and devotees' pleasure.
Or can we understand that in the modern days, the same movie actor is acting the same role in all movies? His fans become very bored up. So devotees also want to see their Lord acting in a different way so they can derive pleasure.
Well, there are persons like that. But generally, one is encouraged to develop one particular relationship. Of course, we have examples of mixed relationship called sankula, where there's sakya with a little dasya or sakya with a little vatsalya, etc., like that. And that becomes the primary or the sthai bhava, the main relationship. So this is the course of in sadhana to develop in that direction, so one can concentrate on one particular rasa and one particular form of the Lord. However, in the Vedanta Sutra there, Baladev Vidyabhusan describes how some people worship one form, some people worship many forms, because they like many forms, they like to worship many, so they do that. So they can also get perfection, because they're all forms of the Lord, so they can ultimately realize many forms, but the attraction to one particular form is not so strong. So in other words, their attraction to the Lord is rather general, and they can take any form, whereas the attraction that where one person chooses one form is much stronger. And consequently the rasa also can be various. So in Nectar Devotion, Rupa Goswami describes that there are some people in Shanta Rati, not even up to rasa, but Shanta Rati. So they can experience the Lord in many different rasas. So one day they like Madhurya rasa, another day they like Shanta rasa, another day they like Vatsalya rasa, like this. So they can change at will. But none of them are very strong. So they appreciate all of them at different times, but none is very strong. And then it comes back to a Shanta type of feeling. So that's the option. If you want many, then you can have it, but it's much weaker. And if you choose one, then it's very, very strong.
Then sometimes we preach to people that accept Krishna, because why we disturb other people? Let them be attracted to Rama, like Narayan. Or we're not going against their wish.
Well, yeah. We don't, if someone's very attached to a particular form, we don't have to discourage them. Of course, normally that's not the case. The main case is they're mainly attached to Devata worship. not Supreme Lord. So then we can tell them, well, they're devatas and not. If it's the form of the Lord, we don't necessarily have to tell them to give it up. We can expose them to it as Lord Chaitanya did in Srirangam. But if they don't want to accept, fine, then we don't force them to take anything. So in other words, we have different sampradayas and they're worshiping different forms. So we're not forcing those people or persuading them to give up that worship for a different type of worship. But if they become attracted, fine, then let them worship.
Lord acts like a simple human being. Even Brahma and Indra are getting bewildered. But using this, many of the human beings think that, if Lord can be a human being, why we can't become God? We see nowadays many humans are acting like God.
Well, it requires for the person doing sadhana, though Krishna is human-like, we do have to have an understanding of the nature of Krishna. So therefore, in worshiping Krishna, even though ultimately in Vrindavan, if we go there, then we don't see him as God. In our sadhana, we have to also understand his nature as Supreme Lord, as we see here, Krishna, Supreme Lord, Creator of the world, etc. So in sadhana, we do distinguish the Supreme Lord from everyone else, and even Krishna, even if he acts human-like. So very, very necessary for sadhana to have some knowledge and distinguish Supreme Lord from Jiva. They're quite different.
So you see, Krishna has a 4 extra quality which Vishnu doesn't have. Because of this, we accept Krishna as Supreme. And among the 4 extra qualities, one is called like a Venu Madhuri. Okay, this sweetness of the flute. And so this, and also we see that Krishna is included in Mathura, Dwaraka and Vrindavan. Correct. But this Venu Madhuri, this sweetness of flute, we don't see in Mathura and Dwaraka.
No.
We don't see.
Yeah. So the sweetness is less, in other words. The sweetness of the relationships with the devotees is less. The sweetness of the form is less. The sweetness of the pastimes is less. Huh?
So among the 4 extra qualities, this quality is not there in Mathura and Dwaraka.
Yeah.
So then, can you say then he acts like an Vishnu?
Of course, there is within Dwarka. There is Nava Vrindavan, where Krishna acts like a cowherd boy again, and the gopis are there, etc., etc., etc. So even within Dwarka, maybe Krishna plays his flute there also, in that particular place.
Another question, Manasi, this in Srirangam, normally this Shiva Vaishnava, they worship Vishnu, not the Krishna. So we see that many Andals, they actually glorify Krishna, not the Vishnu.
What's that?
Andal.
Yeah.
Andal, they glorify Krishna and different pastimes.
Yeah.
So, but they don't worship, they don't glorify Vishnu like that. Although they are in the same line, Andal, I'm saying.
Yeah.
So how is it possible? They're supposed to worship the Vishnu, but they are, glorifying Krishna here, not the Vishnu.
Why they worship Krishna? Yeah. Well, they respect all the forms of the Lord. It's not that they consider that the ultimate goal is Vishnu. That's all. But they accept Krishna as avatar. He's also Vishnu, same. But ultimately, when we through sadhana, we attain Vaikuntha, and that's where we go.
Can you say this? These Andals are in Madhuri Rasa?
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, Andal is actually Lakshmi, so to speak. So this Madhurya Rasa, definitely.
We see that they wrote so many, they sang so many songs that glorifies about Krishna in different pastimes.
Yeah.
So how to see this kind of pastime then?
Well, just like we can read the pastimes of Ramchandra and appreciate everything like that, or the pastimes of Vishnu or any other form, or Nrsimhadev, we can also appreciate. But then we take Krishna as the main form. So they appreciate Krishna and other forms, Ramchandra, etc. also, but they take Vishnu as the ultimate form, ultimate goal. So that becomes the most prominent for them. And others are expansions, so to speak, avatars of Vishnu.
Maharaj, so the Lord reciprocates according to the desires of the devotee. So there are numerous forms, and the devotees can have exchange with the Lord. In a neophyte understanding, Maharaj, it looks like, like the Mayavadis say that, okay, it is originally it is Brahman, and from there comes all incarnation. So the Brahman is supreme. It apparently looks like that. How to understand that, Maharaj? No, the Lord has different forms, several forms, and according to the desires of the devotee.
Yeah.
And we say all are one tattva, Bhagavan, Vishnu tattva. So in a neophyte understanding, it looks apparently that it's a kind of a maya of the philosophy. There's no one supreme God, and it's just different manifestations. It looks like Brahman is supreme and then everything came from Brahman. It looks like that, apparently, in a neophyte
Well,
understanding.
Mayavad philosophy, if only Brahman exists, nothing exists. Nothing is real except Brahman. That's why it's called Mayavad. Everything else is Maya.
Yeah.
Yeah? So there can be no two, there can be no forms, no matter, nothing, no jivas, only one consciousness. So that everything else is, when we see all that, it's Maya. Huh? So Lord has many forms, they're not Maya. Huh? They're aspects of the Lord for pleasing His devotees.
Okay. Okay, but even Maharaj at times in our sampradaya, like maybe Maharaj said, like when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in Srirangam and he was trying to establish the supremacy of Krishna, and whereas still the Venkat Bhatta followed his own way of worshipping Vishnu. So how do we understand this aspect of establishing supremacy of a particular form in a Vishnu Tattva? How do we understand that, Maharaj? Why we have to do it and how do we understand that?
Well, that's up to the sampradaya. So in our sampradaya we accept Krishna as supreme, and then we take different proofs to show that. The primary proof being Bhagavatam, where it says Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam. So we take that, and then on that we show how Krishna, with the relationship with Krishna, gives the highest bliss. So therefore, that is an indication that he's the highest form.
So is it good to understand, Maharaj, like the establishing supremacy of one form of the Lord is more to do with the sampradaya, and that's mainly due to
In their preference. Yeah.
intense love for the Lord. They wanted to establish that this way of worship is bigger,
Yeah.
highest.
Though we will also argue from the point of view of Scripture. So Jiva Goswami argues that ultimately the conclusion of all Scripture is the Bhagavatam, and the conclusion of the Bhagavatam is Krishna. So therefore, scripturally, he also gives some proof of that.
Okay, thank you, Maharaj.